So moving on a little bit to quantum business, I would call it. I was thinking about this. So that I'm kind of proposing a theory called the $1 million prompt theory. And the idea here is it possible to make a lot of money for doing a relatively easy quantum implementation for a business? So what this means is there's a business problem, some business has an issue, and someone like us in the year 2040, 2035, right as quantum is becoming good enough to be useful, but before it becomes super mainstream, there'll be opportunities for a quantum formulator like us to come in and structure their business problem in a quantum acceptable form. And then now that it's in a quantum acceptable form, you can then move that, like, do an AI prompt, like, this is my problem, here's my data structure that's quantum acceptable, and then you could come up with $1 million business solution very simply. So that's kind of what the $1 million prompt theory is. Hopefully one day I'll be able to enter some company and very quickly be able to formulate a quantum acceptable form of their business problem, and then that could become a very valuable solution. So it's only a theory at this time. It's yet to be seen whether or not this will be possible, because it might be the case that only enormous businesses have quantum use cases, and those businesses would be working directly with larger quantum computing companies. But if there's a lot of use cases for small to medium-sized businesses, there will absolutely be a lot of people who are making a lot of money and providing a lot of value very quickly. $1 million prompt theory. So that kind of leads me into this next topic. So how to be successful in quantum technology? I kind of see two different paths. We'll kind of start off with path A. It's more traditional, I suppose. So I graduate with a STEM undergrad, pursue higher education in quantum, become an expert in something. So this could be highly specialized, especially as you pursue a research-based PhD or master's in quantum computing. You'd be doing something exceptionally specific. And unfortunately, a lot of people, like, let's say you do your PhD in something very specific with the laser in this one particular quantum computer. Unfortunately, especially if a different type of quantum computer becomes viable instead of laser-based quantum computers, that skill may actually unfortunately become useless. But yeah, become an expert in something and then kind of try to tailor that to something that's, I guess, likely to be industry useful. Especially if you're focusing on algorithms, that's probably always going to be useful because all the computers in general can use the same algorithms. But if you're hyper-focused on the hardware, there could be some risks there. Anyway, and then eventually get well positioned to get a job in quantum computing. And then yeah, I'll talk about it in like a future slide, but I think kind of a decade or so is what we're looking at before there's serious momentum in quantum. So yeah, just kind of theoretically, that's a path A to become successful in quantum. Path B would be to start a career unrelated to quantum, monitor quantum developments closely, focus on quantum integration skills. So that's what I kind of talked about in the previous slide, where you go into a business and then you implement quantum knowledge into that business. So focusing on implementation and integration skills. And then finally, you can start a business or join a quantum integration business. That's kind of the path B there. So this is kind of involves kind of waiting for the right moment and then hopping on the integration implementation. Because unless you go do your PhD, you're not going to be able to build your own quantum computer. You're not going to be able to capitalize in that way. So you're best off kind of trying to focus on the integration implementation. So yeah, those are kind of the two different paths I see in successful in quantum technology over the next decade or so. Just for fun, I'll kind of share my plan with you guys. Kind of a mix of A and B. So I'm completing my engineering degree in biology or undergrad in engineering and biology. I'm planning to start a career in engineering industries, not necessarily relating to quantum computing. I'm going to keep very up to date on quantum technology. You guys know I do that by delivering these presentations. I'm going to let my network know I'm interested. So all of you guys in the future, you start a business, let me know. I'm informing my network that I'm interested in this. And then I'm going to study quantum computing at the University of Calgary once the technology matures. So they have quite an interesting one-year program there, and it's actually meant to be done while you're working. It's like a professional degree, and it's not focused on advanced science. It's actually focused on business applications. So it's pretty enticing to me, especially if we see some good momentum in quantum technology. That's something I could pursue in the next decade, kind of part-time, and slowly get that done. And then maybe one day I'd like to attempt to prove the $1 million prompt theory. Yeah, I'd like to turn that theory into a law if possible. All right, fantastic. We're wrapping up the presentation here. Just a few other things to keep in mind. So high valuations in quantum. So let's talk about a company called Xanadu. I actually visited their head office in Toronto about 1 year ago. Cool company. They're working on some laser-based quantum computers. And they have awesome lasers, they have smart people, but they don't really have any real revenue. So their business is kind of very much research and development. So their revenue is likely under 10 million. But look at this. This year, they had their initial public offering at $3.6 billion. So this isn't matching this revenue, especially when their profit is certainly I wrote exceptionally far from profitable. I don't want to be offending any Xanadu employees if they're watching this video in the future, but the finance here doesn't make any sense. The company should not be valued at $3.6 billion. So kind of the idea here is people are making money even if the computers don't work, right? The executives at Xanadu, they just got $3.5 billion. They don't have a working computer. They don't really have any clients, but they have billions of dollars. So the idea here is people are making money even if the computers don't work. I was speaking to someone last night, and they were kind of informing me about kind of quantum technology, and like they're coming from a more investor perspective, and there definitely is a lot of hype that isn't always relating to reality. So yeah, just a bit of comments on my timeline about timeline opinion. So I believe that we need a lot more qubits to have useful computation. I think we need about 1 million times more qubits. So even if we 10x qubits every year, which is aggressive, it still takes us 6 years to get about 1 million times more qubits. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind, is we're very far from having enough qubits to do useful things. I believe 10 years is a possible timeline. 10 years from now, we could start seeing Beijing might finish their taxi implementation. I believe 10 years is a reasonable timeline, but again, people have probably been saying that for decades. And then lastly, I believe that robotic is here, not quantum. So this is kind of a bit tangential, but I think that we're entering a phase of extreme robotics. Like a robotics era is like coming this year, next year, but I think quantum is still down the road. I was kind of discussing with that same person I was talking to last night, and not that we were in an argument or anything, but he is kind of saying, I think quantum is coming before robotics, but I'm very confident that it's the other way around. That's a bit of my opinion there. And then yeah, just kind of ending up here, so problems in quantum applications. So there's the same problems with hardware limitations, which we discussed, algorithm limitations, so there's only a few useful algorithms. As we kind of discussed in this presentation, even though there's only a few useful algorithms, you're still able to do quite a lot of useful things with them, but it's important to note that there are algorithm limitations. And what's been interesting as well is because of AI, there's been some previously believed applications of quantum computers and some algorithms that initially we believed would be better than classical, but AI has proven that using AI, it's actually worse than classical computing. And then this is a big question here. So will quantum computers only be useful for huge operations? Will medium-sized businesses be willing to pay for quantum? So that's something that we don't know. So hopefully medium-sized businesses will be willing to pay for quantum, and that would allow a lot more opportunity for entrepreneurship and business in quantum. Whereas if it's only huge companies like Amazon, they're going to develop out their own quantum team, and it will kind of become a very niche part of the market only for enormous businesses. As I kind of mentioned, there was extreme hype in financial markets. Investors are not very knowledgeable, and companies are grossly overvalued. And then something else as well, I was doing some research on this, and many figures combine quantum and AI to inflate the apparent value of quantum. So to talk specifically, so I was looking at this one statistic by McKinsey. I don't have it on here, I forgot the exact number, but they were estimating, they said quantum and AI will save whatever billions of dollars in this particular industry. But they purposely, in my opinion, are mixing quantum and AI, because 99% of that savings is probably from AI, but they want to like overhype quantum for whatever other reasons. So they're including the words quantum in that statistic, and it's, in my opinion, almost purposefully inflating the apparent value of quantum. So yeah, I believe that we're kind of approaching the end here. So that's the end of my presentation. I tried to keep it short for you guys. Any questions or comments? No? Well, thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much.